Andrew, tell us about your life after intermodulation and so on. And you started up your own group as well in the 70s, and then you made quite a career producing pop singers and things like that, writing music for films.
Yes, I mean, I did form another group straight away after leaving Cambridge with Robin Thompson, who's one of the members of Intermodulation, and another wonderful musician, a Scottish player called Maurice Pert, who was a very good composer and a phenomenal percussion player. And we worked for a while with a Japanese virtuoso percussionist from the Yamashita, playing the Royan Festival and Paris Biennale and these kinds of shows. And then I was simultaneously doing session work for one or two people I'd met at Cambridge. I was booked to do sessions with Nick Drake and other people of that sort. And then suddenly got asked to do some arrangements one day, and that took off very quickly. I was asked to do a record with Cockney Rebel, Steve Harley, which was really successful and had an enormous orchestra on it. And then carried on to, as you say, started producing people. The first main one was, I was phoned up by a friend of mine, David Gilmore, and asked if I'd like to come and work with this girl he just discovered, or his office had just discovered, called Kathy Bush at the time. She changed it to Kate later. I did 2 records with her, and I was working a lot with Alan Parsons and Al Stewart and other people at the time. A lot of composers teach in the academic world. I tried that for a while, and it really didn't agree with me at all. So I decided to do some sort of commercial work, which at least meant I could get to experiment with orchestras and write some very strange things for them. So I was learning that side of my craft through working in the pop world. And it started off as a means of subsidizing my composition, then completely took over for about 2 decades, until Equale Brass commissioned a piece from me, the Suite for Brass and Piano. That was one of the first classical pieces I'd written for about 20 years.
I remember your music for Lady Hawk was absolutely spine-chilling, and it was the first time I did. So I've seen with medieval knights, rock music going on. It was and it's become quite a cult movie now. And I remember the head of composition, Gordon McPherson, at the conservatoire. Fell down at my feet when I said I knew you, because it's something all his students were looking at as well, that music. What's it like working 400 miles away from Bede and putting this music together over this sort of distance? Is this the shape of things to come? Or have you and Kirsten been doing stuff like this forever?
Both of us have done this sort of thing before. It's probably been more common up to now in the sort of rock pop world, or even jazz world, where you'll get somebody putting down a drum track and someone else tape it, or it gets sent down the one line to someone who's put the bass guitar on in his studio and a saxophone in another one. This has become really fairly common over the last 20 years or so, with the growth of home studios and a lot of the fact that recording machines got a lot cheaper. I mean, in the days when you have to pay, more than your house was worth to buy a multi-track machine are long gone.
Oh yes, it's amazing now, and especially during lockdown, you can do whatever you like with GarageBand, can't you? So it is changed out of all perspectives, and it's lovely that a lot more people can do a lot more creative things so easily.
How did you find this process, Bede, of working in splendid isolation and coming together? Were you on the phone all of the time saying, "Oh, how's this going? How's that going? Why do you want this?"
Yes, well, I could have been, and maybe I should have, but I had the benefit of being able to rehearse with Andrew and Kirsten before in St Andrews in November, and of course I knew the piece from your recording of it together. I found working on it here during lockdown, I just had to invent a lot of artificial processes for myself. I'd actually just recently given some advice to my own students that who have been recording their final recitals remotely, that you have to say, okay, at a given place and a given time, you're going to give a performance, and that's it. And so I took the advice myself, and when I was trying to record the piece, I just said, right, okay, put on my blacks, and then, you know, at 10 o'clock in the morning, went about the business and tried as best I can to do what you might do if you were in public.
Bede was talking about the ambisonics as well. I mean, the way that you diffuse the music makes it sound great. Now, how do you do it, and how does it work?
I'm glad you asked me that. But the ambisonics comes in and out of fashion. You're talking about fashion to Bede.
Yeah.
I think with computers now, it's out of fashion. But there's lots of different people who've tried to introduce the quad. There was quad sound. There's ambisonic. It's always great if people have that set up in their home, but it always still has to sound good in stereo. So, you know, it dives in and out. It has to sound good in both, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's lovely in a concert situation where you can have the sound going round and round the hall. That really, really is a wonderful experience.
I must say that when I first heard the piece as a student, listening to the whole disc, which is on of yourself and John's, and with Tim's piece, I was absolutely blown away by the whole disc, and there's the Stockhausen on that as well. But the final third section of Plasmogeny as well, I thought that it really, in my mind, it was worth pursuing being a trumpeter for a little bit longer, or for as long as I possibly could, if I could have a go at playing music like the third section. Because, you know, I always wanted, as a trumpeter, I always wanted to, you know, have a little moment rocking out. But, you know, you don't often get that chance. But just in that section, it really, it gets to the point. I love it.
Good. I'm very pleased to hear that. I'm glad you did pursue the instrument.
Yeah.